Real quickly before we begin, I want to thank this video's sponsor, CarMarshal.com. CarMarshal.com can save you lots of money on buying used or new vehicles, cars, trucks, school buses. If you want to save money, I'll have a link in the description down below. I know I'm going to...
Okay, could I have your attention? We'll call the Committee on Criminal Justice to order.
Even with those three that have been withdrawn.
Okay, but the thing about it was that you felt like that we need the Class 2 holster.
Yes, sir.
Okay, which is unavailable to anyone unless you're a law enforcement officer. The other thing was where you would display your concealed weapons permit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that was so your law enforcement officers would know that the person was in his legal right to have the gun. Okay, but then you wanted training, the firearms retention training, and ultimately in the firearms retention training, isn't it hand-to-hand combat? Isn't it actually firearm retention training is specialized law enforcement and military training that's not even available to the public? It teaches law enforcement and military officers how to stop someone by taking someone from taking your gun from you, and in most jurisdictions it's not even taught by firearm instructors. That the NRA actually quit teaching that because those defensive tactics were so horrendous when you're talking about driving someone's nose bone into the brain.
You recognize?
Even with those amendments, the sheriffs feel very strongly, again, not to support 234.
Open carry is just a bad idea. We don't support it, and I hope it doesn't pass. Thank you.
So no questions. Thank you very much. Mr. Ryan Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senators. I'm here representing several thousand members of the grassroots Florida Open Carry Movement and Florida Carry Incorporated. I'm one of over 3/4 active concealed weapons firearm license holders. 23 years ago, we passed a highly controversial shall-issue law here, and the Florida Sheriff's Association and the Florida Police Chiefs Association were in opposition to it, and it was going to be we're driving down the road, killing each other on the highway, and every argument in the parking lot is going to end up in a shootout. Now, that's been 23 years. There's been 1.92 million of these licenses, and I believe 168 have been revoked for a firearms-related issue. You know, now we're on the verge of repealing this prohibition, and I don't see on the Florida Sheriff's Association legislative agenda about it. I don't see anything on the Police Chiefs Association about it. The public's not against it. A recent WCTV News report had an independent poll this month. District 3 here was 58% in favor. Even a larger margins in 2 and 4, 62% to 12% opposing it. I'm glad to hear that we got rid of the retention holster. These 41 law enforcement officers that lost their lives probably had retention holsters on too. They're tackling people and they're in corrections facilities, getting their, people fighting to get out of jail. We're just going about our daily lives. We're not going to be in a wrestling match with somebody trying to take our gun. So I'm good to hear that. And if there was a bunch of open carry issues, there's 43 states that this is legal. And this would be on every newscast every night if this was a big deal. A lot of this is just, they're not going to see you with a gun and say, hey, let's rob that guy. They're going to look for the innocent, the weak. And as far as how do they know that you're a law-abiding citizen or not if you're open carrying, the FBI studied that in 2006, and there's two things that criminals do. They don't wear holsters, and they hide them. They hide their guns. They don't want it. They're not going to be out there in a position to expose themselves to scrutiny from everybody else. I feel it's a slap in the face of the license holders. These arguments against it basically are emotional, and they're based on these dire prophecies, and we've heard it before, but we've got a 23-year record of being some of the least likely people to cause anybody a problem in the criminal justice system. And I'd really like to ask that you favorably consider this bill and do it on the mountain of evidence that shows that, in all these states. And as far as tourism, they're coming from 43 of the 50 states that allow it to come visit here. So the idea that that's going to stop tourism, I feel frankly, is just not the case.
Senator Questions, thank you for your appearance today.
Appreciate it.
Again, Marion Hammer, would you like to address on the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. The open carry provision of this bill was primarily to deal with a problem that is an ongoing and growing problem. People who are licensed to carry concealed can be arrested and charged with a crime if the wind blows a jacket open and a firearm is exposed. The law says you may carry concealed. Numerous people have been arrested and charged with brandishing when the wind merely blew open a jacket or they reached up and a firearm was exposed. Some have been arrested and charged with a crime for violating the open carry law. When an individual's firearm is accidentally, unintentionally, or inadvertently exposed, they should not be subjected to a crime. Those are subjective terms. The only way that you can really protect the license holder is to put language in that says you may carry concealed or openly. If you're allowed to carry openly, it's accidentally exposed, you can't be charged with anything. I keep getting calls from people. I got a call the other day. An individual a lot of y'all may know, Frank Darden with the school boards, called. He had been arrested. He had a firearm in his pocket when he went fishing, perfectly legal. He also had a carry permit. Had to take a friend to the hospital because he got a hook caught in his hand. He couldn't get out. He didn't realize it, but a little hole had rubbed in his pocket and the tip of the barrel was exposed. He was sitting in the waiting room of the hospital waiting on his friend to get medical treatment, and a security guard came up to him and asked him what was in his pocket. When he looked down and realized that less than 1/4 of an inch of the barrel was showing, he just shifted it without ever putting his hand in his pocket. Security guard said it was fine. A little bit later, he came over and asked him if he'd take it outside and put it in the car, and he said, sure. So he got up and he went outside to put it in the car, and when he walked outside, there are all these law enforcement officers out there screaming down on the ground. They arrested him, put him in handcuffs, put handcuffs on so tight they cut his wrist, severed nerves. They had a big lawsuit. They charged him with brandishing a firearm. He didn't brandish. This sort of thing, the attorney that handled his case has handled a lot of cases. This language is designed to protect license holders from that sort of thing. And the reality is, when you get a license to carry concealed, most people don't want to carry it openly. I sure don't. And I have yet to talk to many people who would even consider carrying openly. But it's just more of this emotional stuff. I will tell you that firearm retention training is in fact hand-to-hand combat training. It is not available to the general public. The National Rifle Association trains trainers. We train more trainers than anybody else. We quit teaching firearms retention because so many students get injured taking the training because they teach you moves that effectively break hands and wrists and fingers and backs. In the military, it's just simply somebody goes for your gun. They have a series of moves. You break the wrist, you hit them in the Adam's apple, and then you shove the septum into the brain if you can. military are trained to kill if somebody tries to take your gun. And I don't think we want average citizens going through that kind of training. I don't think most average citizens could even complete it if it were available, but it definitely is not available. This is a good bill. This bill basically makes some clarification to concealed weapons license holders, and we urge you to support it.
Any further discussion? Senator Edwards, you're recognized to close.
Members, I thank you, and I really appreciate your diligence with us working with this bill. You know, if we had more common sense, we would need less statutes on the books. And you know, and I, for one, have strong convictions about property rights, very strong, and I think you know that. But I'll also say this, that this bill, you're not going to see, Senator Margolis, you're not going to see folks walking down the street of Tallahassee with their gun, because if you did, when you went to Alabama, you'd see it. When you went to Georgia, you'd see it. There's already 43 other states that allows for open carry. So with that, you know, I appreciate your vote. I appreciate your support on this good bill. And I close.
Senator Smith moves a CS without objection on this bill. Will the Secretary please call a roll on CS for Senate Bill 234?
Senator Dockery? Yes. Senator Margolis?
No.
Senator Smith? No. Senator Evers?
Yes.
Chairman Dean?
Yes, and by members, by your bill today, the bill passes.
I'd like to call the Rules Committee to order and ask Jenny if you'd call the roll, please. Further questions?
Mr. Chair?
Siplin.
Yes. Yeah. What is the reason why we want to have an open carry gun policy?
Well, this would.
Senator Evers.
Thank you, Chair. What this would do would enable a person, if they were carrying a gun concealed and accidentally got exposed, because we do have an open policy, it would be permissible. Also, if a person were to stand outside their vehicle and take their coat off and their gun was exposed, you do have open carry. If they ran into a place of business, if it was permissible to go in that place of business, they wouldn't necessarily have to put their coat on in order to walk in the door, grab a Coke, and walk back out.
Welcome, Sheriff.
Thank you. Good morning, members. And I'm just going to be real brief because I know my colleagues have some comments that they want to make, but I need to tell you that the Florida Sheriff's Association, as you might expect, is unequivocally supports Second Amendment constitutional rights to bear arms and encourages responsible citizens to obtain concealed weapons permits and to legally possess firearms and carry them in an authorized concealed manner. The sight of citizens visibly carrying firearms in public is alarming and intimidating to many citizens and individuals who live and reside in our community, in addition to the visitors that routinely visit the state of Florida. And this is why most sheriffs in our state have policies that prohibit law enforcement officers from openly carrying weapons unless they are in uniform. So I just don't see where there's a reasonable or even a legitimate need for this bill. I just really don't. And I just would encourage you, on behalf of the Florida Sheriff's Association, to oppose this bill. And thank you. And I'll defer to my colleagues for any additional comments.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian Pitts. Just Jesus on the matter. As Sheriff Bradley just said, what's the need? It would only be a need unless someone's right is being violated, and you're trying to fix that. But where's the violation at? Because it also has to compete with other rights of those who may be offended by such a matter.
Thank you, sir. Ryan Ramsey. Ryan Ramsey. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't see you over there. Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here today representing several thousand members of the Grassroots Open Carry Movement and Florida Carry Incorporated. One of over 800,000 concealed carry permit holders in this state. 23 years ago, the legislature passed a controversial bill giving us shall issue carry rights, okay? This bill went across the country, crime rates go down. The more people carrying guns, civilians, is better for everybody. When the bill was being argued then, we were going to have rolling shootouts over road rage. It was going to be a, fender bender is going to turn into a shootout. None of that happened. It's not the case. Now, they want to talk about, well, how do I know if the guy open carrying is a permit holder? Well, if you're openly carrying your gun, you're exposing yourself to scrutiny, and you're likely not a criminal. The FBI has studied that in 2006. Criminals do not open carry, and they don't use holsters. There's 1.92 million plus permit holders in this state. There's been 168 of them in 23 years have been revoked for a firearms-related offense. That record is sterling. Now, I'm looking here at the statistics from National Police Misconduct Report and the Florida Division of Licensing, and there's 35,520 law enforcement officers in this state. 265 were cited for misconduct last year. There's 800,000 permit holders, and 265 were cited last year or had their permits revoked. So we're 22.5 times less likely to have our permit revoked than a law enforcement officer is to commit misconduct, and yet they're in here allowed to open carry. And basically, there's people that are getting arrested from getting the soup can off the bottom shelf at the store and their gun rides up. That's on camera. It's a crime. You committed a crime. It's on camera. It's just, I'd ask that you'd favorably consider this bill. Everybody says I support the Second Amendment, but, well, I just ask that you support the Second Amendment and look at the mountains of evidence in our favor and our sterling record over all these years, and not listen to the emotional arguments and the prophecies of doom and gloom that have never materialized.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Quick question for him.
Yes, sir.
Sir?
Senator Smith has a question for you, sir, if you wouldn't mind coming back. Yeah. Senator Smith down here. Senator Smith?
Down here, within your statistics, do you have statistics as to how many people have been prosecuted for reaching for that can and their gun comes out? How many of those have happened in Florida?
We can get that to you. That's no problem. I don't have that at hand.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep it short and sweet.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Further questions? Senator Margolis, you have a question?
The sheriff said he can answer that question.
All right, Sheriff.
He already had a chance. He don't know of anybody.
Thank you.
Recognize, sir. On the question.
Our prosecutors did some research, and they cannot find in the state of Florida where anybody's been prosecuted for what was just described to you for brandishing.
Thank you, sir. Marion Hammer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We too are working with Senator Evers and the Chamber and the Retail Federation and others, and we think we've got a fair solution here. There are a couple things that have come up that I want to speak to. There are 43 states that have some form of open carry. 12 of them require a concealed weapons license or a license, just like what we're doing here would do. A question was asked, how many people have been prosecuted for accidentally exposing a firearm when they were carrying concealed? The prosecutors have not prosecuted. And Mr. Jacobs said in previous committees, oh no, we haven't prosecuted them. The question is, how many have been arrested? And for a citizen to go through arrest and be taken to jail for doing something that was inadvertent or accidental is just nonsense. And that's part of what this is about. And there are cases. New Smyrna Beach, there are a number of cases. They know about them. We know about them. And I've talked to some of the law enforcement officers about them and some of the state attorneys. This issue is getting blown all out of proportion, just like in 1987. I've said in other committees, this is deja vu. A newspaper clipping said, the Seminole County Sheriff said, allow more concealed weapons in the state. There will be more guns, more violence. There will be more people trying to work out dangerous situations with a deadly weapon. They said a bill on who can carry hidden guns that will allow virtually any adult who is not a felon, crazy, or drug user to carry a gun. It's the old Wild West. It's the fastest on the draw. If this bill passes, you're going to see the same thing in Florida, complete chaos. It didn't happen. 1.9 million people in Florida have been licensed to carry. As the previous speaker said, 168 out of 1.9 million have had a license revoked for misconduct with a firearm. Concealed weapons license holders do not go around shooting law enforcement officers, as seems to have been intimated here earlier. These are law-abiding people whose rights are being abused. This is a fix for that problem. We urge you to support this bill.
All right, that's the last public testimony. We're in debate. But before we get in debate, we need to take up the amendment, the vote on the amendment as amended, and without objection, show that adopted so we can put us in the proper posture. We're now in debate. Is there debate? Senator Alexander.
Just a brief statement, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm the son of a Marine Corps pistol team member. Believe in gun rights 100%, support concealed weapons. I have no problems or issues with clarifying that an inadvertent exposure is not a crime, but I think we should be exceedingly careful about going beyond that. So I'm going to probably vote with the bill today, but if it's not crystal clear that it is just a clarification that it is a truly an inadvertent exposure that we're talking about, I would personally, as strongly and vigorously as I can, not support the bill.
I understand it's about people's rights, but people's rights need to be granted. And I know we've heard some discussion about brandishing weapons or accidentally displaying weapons that are concealed. And I cannot find a case anywhere where anybody was arrested in the state of Florida for that violation. And perhaps it's just law enforcement using good common sense if they are confronted with such a situation or receive such a complaint. Law enforcement is going to be drawing down on these folks until they neutralize the threat. I'm confident it's going to happen, that law enforcement is going to start drawing their weapons and challenging these individuals, and something bad may very well happen. And I just ask that you take that in consideration if you are consider supporting this bill. Law enforcement is going to be on high alert, and when they arrive at a scene and they see somebody openly carrying, their attention is going to be focused to that individual or individuals.
Driver's license on your day? The reason I stopped your tag expired. Showing expired decal. You got the registration proof insurance? It happens. It happens. What are you carrying a gun for? Put it on there. Put your hands on. Put your hands right there. Put your hands right there. I'll shoot you in the fucking back. 543, code 2. Single 54. Don't fucking move. You understand what I'm telling you? Get down on the fucking ground now. Get down on the ground! He's gonna be at the Walgreens. Put your hands on your back. 1998. Don't you move. You understand me? I have a permit for it. Don't move. Stay right there. Stay on the ground. He does have a... I don't care if he has a permit or not. Step out of the vehicle. I've been stopped 3 times before, and they asked me if I had a weapon. I said, yes, sir, I do. And when we went to that damn school, they said, if they don't ask you, don't worry with it. All right, so you're going to let it pop out from behind your shirt. That's a violation of your permit right there. How's that? Because I saw it. That's how. not concealed anymore.
Well, can I talk to you a minute?
Yeah, go.
I've been stopped 4 or 5 times, and I've told them, and well, I'm on discipline retired. I do not have the money for this kind of stuff, partner.
I'm sorry.
I did not vanish a weapon or display a weapon. It was under
You
my
violated. You turned around. Your weapon stuck out right at me. That's why I did what I did.
I had my back to you.
Yeah, you had your back to me.
I mean, I ain't done nothing wrong. I don't have money to go get me out of jail.
Sir, that's not my problem. You should have told me you had a weapon. You shouldn't have stepped out of the van on me like that. And then to swing your hands behind your back knowing you got a weapon on your side. Listen, sir, it's all on videotape.
I know.
You're more than welcome to review the videotape.
I know that, but when we went to school, we said if they don't ask you if you got a weapon, don't worry. If they ask you, tell them you got a weapon. If they ask you if you don't ask you, then don't worry with it. Because you have a permit. I did not vanish no weapon.
Then how'd I know you had a weapon? So I can see it poking out from
the
under
tip
your...
of the barrel down there.
That's it,
leaned
sir.
over.
That's it.
But, I mean, you can't see that, you know, most people don't. See, only when I leaned over looking for a thing, for my tag.
Now, what happened to your driver's license?
You ain't really gonna take me to jail over this nonsense.
Yes, sir, I probably am.
Man, I'm asking, I ain't got the money to get out of jail, and I ain't done nothing wrong. And I followed the law, I do.
No, you didn't. Swing your legs in.
Buddy, ridiculous.
Tell me his arm. Bent over, jumped out of the vehicle on me. When we went back to the vehicle, I saw the gun poking out from underneath. He got a permit, but he never told me he had a permit.
Put your hands up!
We got him secured.
That's fine.
You have signal 0? Yeah, we got it.
Right, thanks.
We got a call from that last week. You make a mistake, guys. Stay around for roll call.
Halfway.
Well, this song is about respecting a gift we were given of freedom, and it takes you back. Imagine starving and freezing all winter in Valley Forge. Only thing you got to look forward to is fighting the most powerful military on the planet, and they got the job done. A lot of them died. We should think about that. And we're, I don't want to get up and I don't want to vote. I don't want to go and speak at that hearing up there in Tallahassee. I don't have the gas money. Come on, man. Respect that gift, man. Do something to pay it forward. Keep it for the next generation. It was a cold, foggy morning as we marched from Valley Forge. In the distance I hear the rifle cracks, and I can hear those cannons roar. It's a burning for freedom that has brought me here, for the land that I love and the ones that I hold dear. All at once there's a flash, now I'm on the ground. As I'm taking my last breaths, I hear not a sound. I think of my family and the fate of my fight. I wonder, will they march bravely onward to a future in the light? Don't let me die in vain. Carry on the fight. Freedom isn't free, but
we've got to do what's right, to carry the torch, the weight we must lift, 'cause it was blood and tears that got us here, so respect the gift. If I came back today, I'd be fighting mad. You've given away everything you had. You've let the media control you with government lies. Imprison your countrymen in towers to the sky. Vipers at the top, the horde down below. You're crushed in the middle with no place left to go. So are you gonna sit and take it? Or will you stand up and fight? Will you be the last Americans? Or will you take us to new heights? Don't let them die in vain. Carry on the fight. Freedom isn't free, but you got to do what's right. So carry the torch, the weight we must lift, 'cause it was blood and tears that got us here, so respect the gift. Yeah, 'cause it was blood and tears that got us here. Respect the gift.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I just wanted you to know that I am using this stuff under fair use. And also remember to like and subscribe this channel. Also too, keep in mind I do not make any money on YouTube. This is 5 hours work a day, you know, fighting for freedom. And you can donate with PayPal and Patreon. I just want you to think about this. If everybody gives to PayPal and Patreon, Patreon is every month. Actually, PayPal you can do every month. I have 12,000 subscribers. If everybody gives, I can quit my regular job and go full-time investigations on Charlotte County and possibly even more and beyond. So just keep that in mind. If everybody helps out, I can go full-time doing this. Thanks.